I wonder what you'd usually be doing on an Easter weekend. Maybe you'd be looking forward to getting out and about and enjoying the sunshine, which we definitely have had. Or maybe you'd be catching up with friends and family from near and far. Or maybe it's the perfect time for that trip to IKEA or B&Q and to busy yourself around the house and get some mates round and do a bit of work. This year's going to be a little bit different, isn't it? Some people say that maybe even lockdown it's been the death of Easter. But that's not necessarily inappropriate, because death is right at the heart of this Easter season. And we might see lockdown as being about the death of other things as well. Our freedom's been changed. It's been affected. We can no longer go out and do everything that we'd want to be doing. There are hobbies that we can no longer follow, things we can no longer chase. Retail therapy is right off the market. Our exercise routines have changed. You can't go to the gym, you can't go to the swimming pool, you can't go to the pub. Lockdowns cause those to die as well. And yet any death of freedom we might feel is right at the heart of Good Friday. As we find a Jesus who he's detained, he's arrested, he's imprisoned. He has no say over what happens next. But this Good Friday has the death of freedom right in its midst. And lockdowns cause the death of other things. Maybe a friendship. And yeah, I know we've got Skype and we've got Zoom and House Party and everything else, but it's not quite the same, is it? Like, we all know how a hug from our best friend feels. And you can't get that on a screen. Or maybe we're in places where we aren't even able to do that. Maybe all those incidental friendships that we so valued, whether it's the people we bump into at the corner shop or your local coffee shop, that you just don't get to see, and you've got no contact details, but they were a regular part of your life, and now they're gone for the time being. And our friendships have changed, that the support of knowing you could just meet up with somebody face to face and know how their hand would feel on yours, to have their arm around yours. That support just isn't there. And yet any death of friendship we might feel is right here on Good Friday as well. In the life of Jesus, this is a time where one of his closest friends, somebody he trusted with his money, Judas, betrays him. He takes people who are looking to kill Jesus and he takes them straight to him. And when they get there, they arrest him and all his other friends, the disciples that have been his closest allies. What do? They all desert him and flee. And even out of the disciples, maybe the one that Jesus would have relied on the most, Peter, he'll be there till the end, right? And then it's a denial, another denial. 3 times Peter denies his friend, his teacher, his Saviour and Lord, and refuses to admit that he knows him. The death of friendship, here on Good Friday. In lockdown, things don't seem fair. This virus is not fair. It seems there's no rhyme or reason who it affects, who it doesn't affect. It's not fair, those people who only have minor symptoms, and then there are others whose symptoms get worse and they deteriorate rapidly. There's no fairness here. There'd be those who say, well, COVID-19, it's a great leveller. But as the journalist Emily Maitlis was saying the other day, it's not the great leveller at all. Because the consequences of this time, they're far more likely to affect the poor than the rich. If you're in manual labour, I challenge you to try and work from home. Those people who are who are working as bus drivers, as care home workers, as nurses. They're far more likely to be in a lower pay bracket. And yet they're those people who are working and putting themselves at greatest danger and in the greatest areas of risk at the moment. They have no choice but to work. And then if you're in a tower block, if you're in cramped flats, it's a different kind of lockdown experience to if you have a lovely house with a few rooms and a bit of a garden. It's a bit different for those for whom they might even, their views might not be of anything at all, save another brick wall. This virus is not the great leveller, it is utterly unfair. And yet any loss of fairness, any loss of justice we might feel at the moment, it is there on Good Friday. This man, this Jesus, put before a kangaroo court on trumped up charges, hassled and harangued by people that are desperate to find him guilty, when this man is completely innocent. Jesus finds that there is no justice, there is no fairness. That too has died. And so in this season, in this current climate, the other thing which is under threat, of course, is our very lives. This illness, this virus, doesn't take any prisoners. Some of us will know those who are suffering at the moment, feeling like their life is slipping through their fingers, that their strength is being sapped away. Even in the midst of this, as a church family, a lot of us are grieving deeply at the loss of a good friend this week. We think unrelated to COVID-19, and yet it has caused deep, deep, deep pain at the loss of a friend and a partner in the gospel. Jesus, he's this man who's proclaimed as Immanuel, this God who comes to be with us. And yet this Good Friday he is faced with the loss of his very own life. He is faced with death in the most brutal, painful way. It's not just undignified, it's publicly humiliating, it's excruciatingly painful. This Jesus dies this day. And yet he does so as this God who is with us. That even as we feel the weight of death, he stands alongside us, knowing what that feels like, and to go on with it until he gets to the final moments. And he says, "It is finished." What could that possibly mean?